Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
So while I'm glad to always have the time off when we do take a break, I do hate that having 2 weeks between shows and having a major holiday in between, two major holidays and even, completely warps my sense of time and space because there's a lot of stories that, that happened a couple weeks ago that you're just like, man, that wasn't that like a month ago? And we're talking about it now? And you're like, oh, no, wait, like that just literally happened. And I just have no perception of what is time anymore.
Right. Yeah, there's, it's weird. Like it is weird because, well, it's like the Trump years, right? Like Trump's reign, I guess is the proper term for it, was 4 years, but it felt like 40, right? Like it was like 40 years worth of political stories crammed in, into those 4 years. And I feel like that same thing happens when you take a break. So we got plenty to talk about. So I know you're probably thinking that happened forever ago, like Brad said. Nah, it was probably last week. Like, that's it. Most likely all of this stuff probably even happened in the last day or two. That's how crazy time is. So let's jump right into it. This is actually my favorite story. Because
Nikki.
I love when non-black people walk headfirst into the world's easiest question. And
look, you could argue Nikki Haley committed one of the classic blunders. The first of which being don't start a land war in Asia, but the second of which is making sure that you talk about the cause of the Civil War accurately being slavery.
Yeah, not a good look. So in a town hall, I guess, someone decided to ask Nikki Haley what I believe Sarah Palin would refer to as a gotcha question. You know, these are normal questions that are
will be
hard
fair.
for Republicans.
I will be fair for her. This kind of was a gotcha question. Like it's completely out of context of anything she's talking about during her campaign. One could argue that the cause of the Civil War not exactly a hot button issue in 2024. You know what I mean? Shouldn't be, at least, but here we are.
Agree to disagree. No, this is it. You know why it's a good question? But it could, because it exposes.
Oh yeah,
like a deep-seated fucked up thing inside the Republican Party.
Because the answer to the question, what was the cause of the Civil War, should be answerable with just one word. Like you should be able to say that one word and move on. And people are like, yeah. Absolutely.
But Brad, states' rights is 2 words.
States' rights to do what, Jay? States' rights to do what?
Irrelevant. I will not be painted into the corner with these gotcha questions. So yeah, someone asked her like, hey, so what was the cause of the Civil War, right? And by the way, bringing up this question before we give the obvious answer, it's states' rights. Bringing up the question, I do actually think is relevant because we are at a time where the talk of breaking up the United States is very relevant to a lot of people, whether they think it's actually going to happen, whether they think a national divorce is even viable or whatever. But it's being brought up a lot. A lot of violence a lot of violent rhetoric, where both sides are like, you start some shit, we're going to finish it, type of dumb shit, right? It's mostly from the right towards the left. But there are people on the left saying the same stupid shit too, right? So all that being said, so I think that's the reason to kind of bring it up and kind of to put historical context into what's going on. Obviously, the answer to what caused the Civil War, if you're not a moron, is slavery, right? And look, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe Brad. You don't have to believe anybody except for the people who use secession as their go-to standard when they were asked to, hey, man, if you could just not do the whole slavery thing anymore. And if you read the Articles of Secession from the slave states, in almost all of them, in the very first sentence, they mention slavery. Hey, man, we really want to get this slavery shit continuing. Hey, man, we love slavery, so we're not giving it up. Hey, man, slavery, slavery, slavery. It's the reason that it was top of mind.
And look, there was a very good not a good reason. Sorry. Let me watch my phrasing here.
Wow, Brad, go for it. Starting off 2024, piping hot. Go ahead.
There was a logical reason from the southern states' perspective to want to keep slavery, and that is because it was the bedrock of their entire economy. They knew that their entire economy would collapse in the southern states if they did not have slaves to be able to tend the fields, to be able to keep the cotton industry and the tobacco industry afloat. So you can phrase these things as a states' rights issue. You can phrase it as, oh, it was for economic liberties. But again, you have to finish the sentence and to do what? To keep slaves. Like that is the reason that happened. So
too busy for that. That's like, Brad, what you're asking is like asking people to read the entire Second Amendment and not just the part about, the right to bear arms. Regulated militia, get the fuck out of here. No, thank you, right? So she walks headfirst into this. She's like, well, it's because blah, blah, blah. Basically, I'm not going to mention slavery because
I'll give you her exact quote. And again, the question was literally just asking what was the cause of the Civil War. So and she prefaced her answer by saying, "Wow, you couldn't give me an easy one, could you?" I mean, he did, but I guess it's not easy for you, Nikki Haley, running in the Republican primary.
Could give me an easier one. Good Lord, who is the first president? Is that what you wanted?
Yeah. Her answer, quote, "The cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do." Jay, did you know that was the cause of the Civil War? The fact that the government was gonna determine what the freedoms of states were to do what they wanted to do, again, to keep slaves, which is what they wanted to do.
I mean, I knew that. Does Nikki Haley know that? Like, and here's how I know Nikki Haley, who I have largely said, by the way, I'm not going back on this, has been the best person in the primary as far as on the debate stage. She has been. But I never, like, some people are like, she's a moderate. She's not a fucking moderate, dude. She worked in the Trump administration. She's not a fucking moderate, right? But she was trying to give off those vibes. I get it. That's a political move. You're not a fucking moderate, right? But this exposes that to people maybe on the left, on the extreme left, who want to be fucking stupid, or people in the middle who are pretty uneducated about who Nikki Haley is. This is who Nikki Haley is, right? So that answer she gives lets me know intellectually she knows that it's slavery, but she can't say that because she knows that her party doesn't want to hear that, right? This is a party who is obsessed with ahistorical narratives, especially when it comes to critical race theory and things like that, right? They don't want to deal with the nastiness of slavery. Look, we don't want to have to deal with it either, but it is reality, and it has far-reaching sort of claws into modern times, right? But as much as I want to like slam Nikki Haley, and I do, and I really do. Also, she said that she was white, which was a weird thing for her to say. Like, you're not, okay? Like, please stop doing that. But as much as I want to slam her for that, this is actually a GOP problem. She's saying it to appeal to her voters because her voters are the ones who say slavery was not the cause of the Civil War. I've literally had conversations with adults who are conservative who are like, that's not the reason for the Civil War. And I'm like, here are the articles of secession. Dude, they're on Wikipedia. You can read them.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's always been really befuddling for me.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's always been really befuddling for me is again, maybe I just have a very rational view of the history of most countries, honestly. Like I think that you have to take the history of any, any state, and you have to look at it through very matter-of-fact lenses. Like, you can't tell the story of America without telling the story of slavery. Like, one of the reasons that America was able to be propped up and rise to power as quick as it did was on the backs of black people. It's an indisputable fact. Like, it's one of the things that got our economy booming relatively early on as a country. Slaves famously, were built the White House, as you'll hear people say, and things of that nature. Like, slavery was an important cornerstone of this country until we, got really, wise to the fact that, oh shit, like, maybe we shouldn't own people. Like, maybe that's not the way to do things. And I'm not saying you have to wear the fact that we engaged in slavery as a country as a badge of honor, but it's certainly not a part of our history that you should try to sweep under the rug. Like, it is what it is. And I don't understand people that have trouble kind of rationalizing that thought in their head. You know what I mean? I don't understand the Chinese menu-ification of American history, where you're like, hey, like, I'm going to pick the things that I really want, that I like, and just kind of ignore the shit that doesn't really, it's not really cool for me. So
look, the Chinese Menu-ification of America is a really solid title for it.
Sure, title.
It's really good. I like that one. Yeah, good job early on. Listen, I think I know why, right? I think I know. Look, let's cut to the chase. White people don't like to talk about this shit. They don't. And then there's, I have no problem with it. Right, no, of course. I'm a white people. Right. Brad, I am a white person. I'm a white person.
Yeah, but also because I'm aware that I didn't engage in the
I didn't do it? What the fuck, man? Fuck that guy over there. It wasn't me.
Yeah. It's 150 years ago. Like, what the fuck?
Like, dude, I wasn't alive. But I think I know why conservatives don't want to deal with it. Because I think that, and this is what's really bothersome to me, is I think that they realize deep down that 150 years ago is not that long, right? Mm-hmm. It simply isn't. And because 150 years is not that long ago, that maybe the things that we did as a country to other people 150 years ago might still have ramifications. And if you have to admit that there are ramifications, then you have to admit that the system is not set up evenly for black people in America right now. And if you have to admit that, then you have to admit that the things that you are doing that are not fixing that are actually exacerbating it. And so it's easier to just say slavery wasn't the reason. That was slavery. It was one and done, whatever the fuck that means in their mindset. It was one and done. And then, like, when slavery ended, everything evened out and we were good, right? Like, I think it's easier for them to have that mindset because it is such a far-reaching, in their minds, a very scary prospect that the country is not as even as they like to pretend that it is. And again, if you really know, if you're really being honest with yourself, I'm speaking like as a Republican now. If you're really being honest with yourself, then you would also have to realize that as a Christian nation, as you say it, or as Republicans would say it, you did these things. And as a Christian nation, you have refused to fix these things, right? If Jesus is all about fucking Birkenstocks and handing out free seafood, if that's the person that you pray to, then why aren't you trying to fix the things that you know are fucked up, right? Again, it wasn't 150,000 years ago. It was 150 years ago. To quote, to paraphrase Louis C.K., whatever you think about the guy, it's a good joke. Like, slavery was 1,000 years ago. No, it wasn't. It was 150 years ago. That's two old ladies living and dying back to back. It's not that long ago, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think of it like that, when you realize how close in time it is, and you have to actually deal with it, that's a terrifying thought if your entire ideology is pick yourself up by your bootstraps. How the fuck can I do that, dude? It was 150 years ago. It's not that far back. Like, when people talk about voting rights, for instance, with black people, they're like, black people, they can vote now. What's the big deal? Dude, my grandmother was alive at a time when black people could not vote. She lived a large portion of her life that she could not vote. That's insane. Mm-hmm. My mother was born at a time where black people could not vote. That's insane. Not 5, 7, 8 generations ago. My mom, I can call her on fucking FaceTime right now, right? Like, It's not that long ago. And so when people pretend like slavery or, these fights for equality are thousands of years ago, they simply aren't. And so to not want to deal with sort of slavery being the reason that millions of people were shooting at each other, and half of those people were like, I want to keep this shit, and their ancestors are walking around waving that flag, and they're on your side politically, is hard to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Nikki Haley is a minority. She wouldn't have been able to come to this country if it wasn't for black people fighting for civil rights, right? So for her to say what she said, I'm not even that mad at it. I'm mad at the fact that she would be, I'm not so much mad at her, but I'm mad at the fact that why would you even join a party that would put you in a position to defend this shit? Look, by the way, you want to ask that question? Oh, what caused it, blah, 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 blah. Now go ask the other candidates. Even now, go ask them. You think Vivek would say slavery? He wouldn't.
No, he would blow V8. He would blow V8. Trump. Who knows what the fuck Trump would say? I couldn't even imagine. The only one who would is probably Chris Christie. Like Chris Christie would probably be the only one that would come out and say it. Yeah. No.
That's it. Because none of them are in a position that they could speak truth to power and win by saying, yeah, man, it was slavery. It was fucked up. And by the way, going further than that, it was slavery. Yes, the Democrats were the party of the South, but those parties have now long switched.
Oh, not even Chris Christie would say that. Come on.
Right. But none of them would say that. None of them would say that. Right? So to me, that is the fundamental issue of the party, is that none of them can be honest about it. So yeah, you can slam Nikki Haley, and you should, and we did, and we will, I'm sure, now and into the future about it. But it is a fundamentally GOP problem. This is not a Nikki Haley problem per se. She didn't necessarily create this problem. She is a symptom of a problem that is deeply rooted in that party. Full stop.
Yeah, and again, she knew she fucked up because she tried to walk it back the following day on a radio show, and you knew she fucked up because after she kind of gave that mealy mouthed answer to that dude, and he basically responded to her. He's like, I can't believe in all that you just said that the word slavery didn't even come up once. And she's like, do you want to talk about slavery? And he's like, no, you answered my question. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. You walked yourself right into a fucking
bad fucking look. Bad fucking look. And again, it doesn't make you look good either when you try to brush that away by saying, oh, that was a Democratic plant and this, that, or the other thing. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a Democratic plant.
Yeah.
To say what caused the Civil War?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if it was, it's not a hard question. As we said, it's not a hard question to answer. No. It shouldn't be a hard question to answer. Yeah.
No, but look, okay, what is the Republican plant equivalent to that? What is it?
probably some insane question about the border, I would imagine.
Right. But what would you say? What was the party of the Klan back when it started? It was the Democrats. Okay, what the fuck, dude? It was 1,000,000 years ago. Who gives a shit? They are not the party now. It was a couple hundred years ago, right?
Yeah. Oh,
we got you. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, and again, that's an easy one to swat down. Yeah, it was the Democrats. By the way, who was the party that was that pushed through the Civil Rights Act in 1965? Same party. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. So they didn't change. Same party.
Yeah. Thanks for playing.
Yeah. Who does the Klan support? Election after election after election. Is it the Democrats? No, weird. It's always the Republican Party. Strange how that works.
Yep.
Democrats fly the rebel flag? No, it's not Democrats? Yeah, weird. Okay, but things have not changed. According to Candace Owens, this is a part of the intelligentsia of the right. The parties have not changed. Meanwhile, the rebel flag is being flown by the people of the opposite party from the Civil War. All right, I don't know, man. It's 2024. Can we just stop talking to these dumbass people on TV? Just stop putting them on TV. It's insane. So yeah, look, I think she deserves to get the bus off for this one politically. It's her own fault, but again,
Yep.
it is deeply rooted in the Republican Party.
But again, ironically enough, I don't. If anything, I think that answer that she gave at the town hall probably helps her with Republicans because she didn't fall into the liberal trap of just boiling it down to slavery. Like she tap danced around that shit, and that probably makes her look better in the eyes of a lot of Republican voters, which is very sad and tragic. By the way, this isn't related or related to any story, but just like it kind of gives you the mindset of Republican voters. You know that Republican voters are more likely now to believe disinformation about January 6th than they were like right after the attack happened.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just being fed a bunch of nonsense day in and day out. Like, so yeah, it makes total sense. That propaganda machine is like in full effect. Like, yeah, we're going to talk about it. There's as I put on the docket, alert, new conspiracy just dropped. So,
okay. So we will talk about it. Okay. I didn't read that story yet. So more to come. More to come.
No, so before we move into the new conspiracy theory, and it's a doozy, it's real stupid. I want to talk about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon has some thoughts on Nikki Haley, incidentally. Quote, I guess he was on the this is a real title. He's on the Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec podcast. Jack Posobiec, or however you pronounce his name. That guy's a fucking lunatic. Yes, Human Events Daily. Okay. So Steve Bannon was on there, and he says, quote, one of the fights we're going to have, a big fight, it will take place in the spring. They're going to try to force Nikki Haley onto the ticket. They'll say Trump needs a woman. Nikki specifically on the ticket. She balances things, and she can bring together that 15% of never Trumpers in the Republican Party. We're going to have that fight. That's an interesting perspective. I actually don't agree with him. I don't think they're going to do that at all.
Well, I don't think they will either because it would actually be a deft political move, and I don't think that the Trump campaign knows how to actually commit deft political moves.
No,
so.
And also, I don't think she would join. I don't think so.
Oh, I'm pretty sure she would, Jay. No, come on, man. I don't think so. Come on. She's not a true believer, though. We just talked about it herself.
Nah, I don't think so. I think she's gotten a glimpse into this guy's administration, and I don't think she'd want to be in it.
Jay, there is
look. Here's a selfish aspect to this. She can't parlay being Trump's vice president into anything else. She can't, and she wants to be president.
But the important thing is that she doesn't realize that she can't. Every politician has some level of ego driving them. And I guarantee you that if Donald Trump were to come to her and say, look, I know we've disagreed publicly on a lot of things. I've said some things about you that are not so nice. And you said some things about me that are, quite frankly, much meaner. Quite frankly. But I want you to be my vice president. In her mind, she would be like, I don't like the guy, but I could change him if I was there. I guarantee you that's the mindset that she would have going into that situation.
So you're going with she has the same viewpoint as you do with Lauren Boebert.
Yes, the Boebertification of running for vice president.
I can change him.
I can steer the ship if I'm behind enemy lines.
No,
like
there's no way. There's no way she believes that. That's insane. Okay, maybe she does believe.
or the more cynical view. This guy's going to die in 18 months, so I want to be there to.
Okay, now that I can see 100% Nikki Haley being like, this guy is 5 hamburgers away from being president. You know what? Maybe I take the gamble. This guy's probably going to get arrested anyway. Like, what do I get? Yeah, I don't know. I tend to believe that she wouldn't. And not because I think like moral reasons. No, I don't believe that. I think she just doesn't think she could parlay it. Because I think she's got to be actively looking at what happened to Pence. and this motherfucker's literally willing to have his vice president be murdered, like if they get in their way. And I feel like she'd be like, nah, yo, like not today. But you never know. She might be able to take the gamble on that this dude's gonna die soon. Like I could see that. That would be if she did it. I agree with you. That would be the Craven move. It's like this guy is looking real bad, man. He's looking real bad. So, but incidentally, Bannon says, "quote If Nikki Haley is in the administration in any capacity, it will fail." Well, she's a viper. And once she gets in there, she'll try to run it as prime minister. She'll try to be Dick Cheney to Trump. She will just be like Dick Cheney to Bush. That'll be what she tries to do. Yeah, again, I feel like you're giving Nikki Haley a little too much credit. I love that she'll try to run it as prime minister. That's definitely a Margaret Thatcher kind of line, right? Like, because that's the most apt person they can think of as a woman being a major politician, because that's how fucked the world is when it comes to that. So it's interesting. I don't know that I buy it. I don't think she'd take the job. I think the only person who would on that stage of the like main players on that stage, I think Vivek would take it, 100%. He says he wouldn't. I don't believe him at all. No.
I agree with you on that point. I do think that if it was offered to Nikki Haley, I absolutely think that she would take it. So if that ever comes to pass, I cannot wait to say, dude, I told you.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
At the end of the day. So
yeah. Now, do you think? Speaking of that, before we move on, do you think that he needs a woman VP, like running with him as VP?
I think he's going to need a not white male. I think that's what he needs. I don't know that it necessarily has to be a woman, but he needs a not white man to be his running mate. And I think that he thinks that. I think he's looking over at, the Biden-Harris ticket and is like, oh, like, Kamala Harris, they're going to get the women vote, they're going to get the black vote. Like, so like he's going to think of it from that perspective. So I do think that whoever it is, it's going to be, it is not going to be another white male. That much I'm pretty certain about.
I mean, I guess the only person you can go with is Vivek, right?
You could potentially go with like Tim Scott if you wanted to, even though he looked like shit, like in his his campaign.
Is his girlfriend going to be back on the? Is his girlfriend going to be back on the payroll? Like, is she coming back off the?
Yeah, well, if you're bringing Tim Scott back for the stump stage, absolutely. She's gonna have to be on the payroll.
I mean, Tim Scott would definitely do it. Like, he definitely would debase himself enough to like genuflect for Trump, 100%. It probably would be Tim Scott. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. The only reason that I think Nikki Haley wouldn't is because I don't think that she would be a sycophant, and I think he's going to try to find someone who is, no matter what.
You're 100% correct about that. You're 100% correct. Like, she shit on him too much in public, and I think that's also part of it. I don't think his ego could stand next to somebody who he thought wasn't just like an adoring fan, and it's clear that she's not. So, because people would be like, "Oh, she was talking shit on you, but now you need her," right? Which like slightly cuts him down a little bit. I think he needs to be. I think he needs to be the big dog. He needs to be the overarching thing, right? Like, that's why I think maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't quite work, because I think she's so fucking crazy, she would draw attention from him, right? Like, you remember Sarah Palin was drawing attention from McCain.
Yes.
That's part of the reason why he lost, right? She's getting bigger crowds and shit like that, and they're like, "Yeah, this is great." I'm like, "This is not good for your candidate, dude." If the vice,
you don't be overshadowed by your vice president. No. 100%.
So I like she's might be too crazy, but then again, she's kind of like tampered down a little bit. Like, she says crazy shit still, but she isn't as like up in the spotlight as much, and maybe that's like on purpose to like, maybe she's doing some little political maneuvering to maybe seem a little less like, I'm going to come in and try to steal the spotlight type of shit. But again, you kind of Trump's going to need somebody who, for lack of a better term, who's a dick sucker. Like, like, because they're going to have to be like, Trump is the shit. Like, he's always been the shit. And Tim Scott has never said a negative thing about Trump that I know of. So I think you're probably right.
But by the way, speaking of shitty vice presidents that don't outshine the president, so I started playing Civilization 6 recently, very late to the party. But when you finish the game, you have a score, and they kind of rank you on a scoreboard, and the rankings are based on like famous leaders of civilizations past, and obviously like a super high score is going to be like someone really notable, and as you go down the list. A 0 point score, so like if you just have the worst game ever and you score 0 points, that puts you on the same level as Dan Quayle, according to the Civilization developers.
That's just mean. I didn't have to do that to him. That man saved me.
I had a chuckle. I had a chuckle about that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. All right, let's talk about the new conspiracies that just dropped, Brad.
I can't wait.
All the kids are talking about it. So on New Year's Day, Donald Trump decided he wanted to kick off 2024. By the way, this picture, Daily Beast, what are you doing? This picture? That's not what he looks like now. This is old, like, dude. Nah, he looks like garbage. He doesn't look like that. So apparently Trump went on to Truth Social, as you do, and in Truth, quote, "Why did American disaster Liz Cheney, who suffers from TDS, The Daily Show, Trump derangement syndrome?"
I love the thing that I do that actually is that he does that's very funny to me is when he uses like an abbreviation or an obscure term in his tweets, and then like will always like parenthetical like what it actually means behind it when you could have just fucking said that.
Just say that, dude. Like you wasted 3 letters. Like you didn't need to do 3 letters into, in a set of parentheses. It makes no sense. Why did American disaster Liz Cheney, who suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, and was defeated for Congress by the largest margin of a sitting congressman or congresswoman in the history of our country? That I don't believe that, by the way. Like that seems like a wild statement to say, but okay. Illegally delete and destroy most of the evidence and related items from the January 6th committee of political thugs and misfits.
Hey, whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Gimmick infringement, buddy.
Right. I feel like don't use that word. Don't use that word. Yeah. That's our
you got to keep kayfabe going, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Like knock it off. This act of, by the way, this is in capital letters. He's screaming.
All caps.
All caps. He's just screaming it. This act of extreme sabotage makes it impossible for my lawyers to properly prepare for and present a proper defense of their client, me. That is such a weird way to write that. All of the information on crazy Nancy Pelosi turning down 10,000 soldiers that I offered to do to guard the Capitol building and beyond is gone. Okay, so this is hilarious. So his new the new theory is.
I'm sorry, I still can't get over it. It's impossible for my lawyers to defend their client. Me! Like, in case you forgot that he said my lawyers earlier in the sentence. Holy shit.
Look.
Oh my God. He had to be at least 3 or 4 Diet Cokes in when he
he was raging, baby. This is like 6 a.m. Like fucking let's go. But I love the idea of this, right? I love the idea of this, that Liz Cheney, just Liz Cheney alone, deleted information that was so relevant to January 6th that it was evident that your lawyers needed to defend you, to properly prepare and present a proper defense for their client, me. What a pathetic, made-up bullshit line this is, right? Why are you just now saying this? Like, why are you just now? You just found out that Liz Cheney was deleted?
he might just now be saying it because he just now thought of it. So maybe that's why.
I believe that is the correct answer. So yeah, now Liz Cheney is deleting data. Incidentally, his lawyers have not said this. His lawyers have not put in any like sort of injunction or anything. Nothing. No one else. By the way, Liz Cheney, the only one on this January 6th committee who did that. That's curious. I'm surprised it wasn't Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger working together specifically.
Right.
Everyone else, Democrats were fine. It's just Liz Cheney.
By the way, he continued on. You didn't go down far enough. Another truth post. Quote, the ridiculous deranged Jack Smith case on immunity, which is the most respected legal minds of the country say I am fully entitled to, is now completely compromised and should be thrown out and terminated, all caps, just like the radical left lunatics did to the evidence.
Like what? What are you talking about? Go sit down. Yeah, look, I love this because it's kind of interesting to watch a conspiracy theory being born. Like we're watching it, right? And then it will end up on TV. It will end up on
right. It'll go to Fox and it'll go to Newsmax, and then his dumb people will start quoting this to Jordan Klepper when he's doing man on the street interviews, and
right.
Yeah, it'll all come full circle. So
right. I heard Liz Cheney. No, who'd you hear from? Trump. Trump is the only one saying this. No, his lawyers aren't even saying this. Like recently, his lawyer, or like in his trial, they were basically like, listen, what was it? I think it's a Georgia case where they're like, we have all of this evidence, and this evidence that exonerates Trump, and all of the evidence is just like printouts from like shitty social media sites. Like, I thought you guys were real lawyers. Like, where is your real information? They're just like,
I'm pretty sure he's exhausted the full supply of real lawyers that would be available to him to defend him in a criminal case at this point. That's what happens when you don't pay your bills, kids.
Yeah, well, and also
reputable people don't want to work with you.
Yeah, and also they know you're and be a known liar for the last 30 years, right? So it's like, oh, did Donald Trump said he did this? He didn't fucking do that. Like, he's lying.
Yeah, instead, all you attract are legal grifters who are quite obviously trying to use your case to propel themselves onto a primetime show on Fox.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, or if they play it right, they could just be one of the many conservative douchebag stand-ins on that like panel of 35 people on CNN, right? Like, they really want to hit the big time, right? Or, hey, I was the criminal lawyer for Donald Trump. More criminals, if you'd like to come to my practice, we could probably help you. But yeah, it is just amazing how he is just making this one up out of whole cloth. Like, he's just making it up. So when you hear, by the way, that Liz Cheney or other Republicans, specifically Adam Kinzinger, most likely will get pulled into this too. When you hear in a month or a couple of weeks or a couple of days that they destroyed evidence, know that this literally came from him. He just made it up out of whole cloth. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I guarantee you by next week, we'll start to hear this being rotated in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Amazing.
And again, like, it's easily undercut by the fact that are like, okay, cool. Like, obviously, like, his lawyers say this happened. How come they're not bringing this up in court? Oh, that's right. Because it's fucking bullshit. That's why. Otherwise, they would use it as a legal defense.
I would if I were them. I'd be like, whoa, dude, we have a problem. No, they'll never bring it up because the judge will be like, cool, what the fuck is your evidence? And they're like,
but here's the other problem. Here's the other problem too, is that while I'm sure that Jack Smith's team is using some committee evidence and resources that are gathered, none of that stuff is just being not independently verified by,
of course,
Jack Smith's team. So, like, even if Trump was correct, it completely undercuts the theory of the case because Jack Smith's team would still get this evidence and then verify it to make sure that it's able to be used for their trial before they rolled it out in front of court as evidence against Trump.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all the stuff is 100% still probably available in some way, shape, or form if it was ever destroyed to begin with. Was spoiler alert, it wasn't, because he probably put those Truth Socials up when he was sitting on a fucking gold toilet, shitting out 5 hamburgers that he ate earlier that night. So
as he watched Vanilla Ice and a Ninja Turtle perform at Mar-a-Lago for New Year's Eve. I'm not saying that as like an obnoxious thing to say, because Vanilla Ice Rob Van Winkle, did perform at Mar-a-Lago. I'm not saying like, yes, a Ninja Turtle came because, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, blah, 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 Go Ninja, like all of that. I'm not saying it because of that. I'm saying because there's actual footage of him as a grown man doing his very, very mediocre rap music with a Ninja Turtle on stage with him. And Donald Trump is watching as I believe it was you who sent it to Annie and I. He's having the best 10-year-old birthday party ever. Yeah.
It's true.
It's a Ninja Turtle, man. I mean,
by the way, someone did cut to him in the crowd while this was going on. He was like fucking stone faced, like he couldn't give two shits about all that stuff. Come on now.
Well, he was furious. I would be too. I'm like, do the Go Ninja song. What the fuck am I waiting? Jesus. I brought you and a Ninja Turtle. You didn't even bring all 4 of them.
Yeah, and you're not singing the ninja rap? Like, come on. Yeah,
come on.
What is this?
Like this is like this isn't hard, right? This is I'm a billionaire, goddammit. Give me what I paid for. Give me what I paid for. That's how you know Trump's not a billionaire. A billionaire could demand the Ninja rap song. A mere millionaire could not. All right. So, as we had talked about in the last episode, the good folks in Colorado booted Trump off of the ballot altogether, right? Like, not just in primary, but even through the general election. We'll see if that politically stands. I doubt it, but nor here nor there. Maine has also joined the fray. Maine top election official has removed former President Donald Trump from the state's 2024 primary ballot in a shock decision based on the 14th Amendment's insurrection ban. Shouldn't be much of a shock considering
about to say.
It's all pretty laid out there. Look, that's great. I don't have a problem with it. More states, please. I know California rejected pulling him off.
As did Michigan and Minnesota.
Yeah. And listen, people are like, oh, I can't believe Gavin Newsom didn't do that. This is a win-win for him. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He gets to say, let Trump run. It doesn't fucking scare me. Joe Biden will kick his ass anyway. Trump isn't going to win California. Who gives a fuck?
Well, and again, it's worth reiterating, the governor doesn't make this call. Like, the Secretary of State's office is the one who makes this decision, because they're the ones that run elections in every state in the country, basically.
Correct.
So that's who did it in Maine as well, was the Secretary of State, Shenna Bellows, was the one doing that. Trump did appeal this, so like they'll have this fight again. Like we talked about last time, we talked about the Colorado thing. I think this is an important fight to have, regardless of the outcome. Like I think it's important to state for the record unequivocally: can the 14th Amendment preclude someone like Donald Trump from running when he obviously participated, tangentially or not, in trying to disrupt the peaceful transition of power in this country, which is tantamount to an insurrection.
So here's my biggest issue with this. Republicans like to make the argument that he was not convicted, so therefore you can't use the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment doesn't say anything about conviction. It doesn't say that at all. Yep. Let me just read Section 3 of the 14th Amendment so it is very clear. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by the vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. So, a couple things there. There's a lot of sort of caveats, but basically, here's what you need to know. You cannot hold federal or state office, civil or military of any kind, if you engage in insurrection or rebellion against the same, whether that's the federal government or state, and given aid or comfort to enemies thereof. I think that's a part people miss, right? Because people go, well, he wasn't running in the front, breaking windows. But he purposely did not call down the National Guard to stop it. That is giving aid to them. You did not try to stop it. And it's not like you tried to stop it and it wasn't successful. That's a different thing. But when people were like, you need to call in the National Guard so we can stop these guys, you just refused, which means you were actively doing something to help them.
And I know that they don't have the Trump team doesn't have a true theory against this, because again, they can't pick one point of attack and stop there. They've tried to approach this from multiple different angles, like saying like, oh, he wasn't involved in this direction is just the latest. The first tack they tried was the fact that, oh, President of the United States is not an officer of the United States. Like that's the first tack.
Yeah,
that they
I
tried,
saw that. I'm like,
which was immediately like kind of hand waved away. Like, of course the president is a fucking officer. Like, it's literally called the office of president. Like that's like, and a person who discharges the role of an office is an officer.
Right. Like, or holds any office, civil or military. By the way, commander in chief. Yeah. Yeah. Like, he is a military office, and partially it's partially a civilian office. Like, but any office, yeah, nice try. Like, you know why they didn't write president? Because they didn't need to, because that's dumb. And anybody who would make the argument that someone who was the former president could be involved in an insurrection and still then become president again, that makes no sense. And no logical person would make that argument. Like, they would not. So, but the other point here is that Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. I saw a Republican, I forget who it was like, well, we could just vote that Trump is can do it, so it doesn't fucking matter. And someone's like, I guess
they don't math real good. I guess
each house, each chamber of Congress, dum. Good luck getting the Senate to give you 2/3 of vote. Good luck, Democrats be like, yeah, this is fine. Like,
yeah, we're on board with this, or the House for that matter. Quite frankly,
yeah, right. Like, yeah, we'll just get the House to do it. What House? What Senate, dude? No, fuck no. By the way, like, listen, allowing Trump to slide on this is incredibly dangerous. Like Jamie Raskin said the other day, I think it was maybe 2 days ago or something like that. He was like, if he loses, he's gonna do it again.
Right.
Like, yeah, and then they're gonna try to do it, and it's gonna be even worse this time. So
there is one tack that they could approach, and that is the fact that they could say, hey, we'll adjudicate whether or not he can hold office if he wins. But the Constitution doesn't say anything about the fact that he can't be on the ballot. Like that, like that's the only like loophole that I could see that they could try to do. Is like, like the 14th Amendment is a late. That's a future America problem. Like, let future America worry about that. We can't be just excluding him from the ballot though before he's won anything. You know what I mean? Like that to me is the only tack that I feel like that is something that could be possibly defensible, or maybe that's where the Supreme Court comes out of right field and like, yeah, like he can be on the ballot, but whether he can hold office or not, that's the part of contention, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We're not going to rule on that yet.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Like, absolutely not. Right. No, motherfucker. I need an answer on that one today. Like, I need my money today. Get out of here. Oh, don't worry about it. If he wins, we'll think about it. Oh, really? Yeah, you think about it for fucking 0.2 seconds. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, we got 2 whole months to decide whether or not we want to let him back in the seat again. And then you would have. I actually think that would be very helpful to him, because then you could be like, you could have a lot of Republicans that would like don't really want to vote for him, but they'd be like, oh well, we're going to vote for him because there's no way that they're going to let him actually sit, and then we'll just get Nikki Haley or Beaver Crosby as president. Like it'll be fine.
That would be hilarious. Like, you won. We've decided you can't be president. Like, okay. Yikes. Speaking of that, like, it's really funny. There's some guy. He's like a January 6th guy, some black dude. Don't get me started. Hey, buddy.
Dude, I know what you mean. Every time I see like a white January 6er, drives me up the fucking wall. I'll tell you.
Yeah, this is a little different. I just fundamentally don't even get it. But this guy is like just raging like all the time on like social media. I see his posts as they end up on the nutty subreddits that make fun of these people that I read, and this guy was like, he had some thought process of like, well, even if you pull Trump off the ballot, we'll install him. And also, I'm like, yo, what are you talking, dude? You're just gonna get shot, man. Like, you're just gonna get shot. Like, that's your future is getting shot by the Secret Service or something. Like, this is not gonna work out well for you. But like, go ahead, man. Like, you got it. Okay. You guys just don't believe in reality. So best of luck. Put a Trump cape on. See how that works out for you. Just like fucking Ashley Babbitt. You're gonna end up getting shot, man. So here is a really, really fascinating bit of maneuvering. Is the best way. GOP maneuvering. Let's see if this will work on you, Brad. You're a classic liberal. Let's see if they can see how dumb us libs are. See if we can catch on. Apparently, the GOP House is planning on taking cues from Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway. Well, that's a red flag right there. The GOP pollster and strategist turned Trump advisor in Walking Bride of Frankenstein have a plan for Republicans to address the problem of abortion. Now, because obviously Republicans have learned that anytime you talk about abortion, they lose. And they're like, we gotta let's knock that shit off. So Kellyanne Conway has been reportedly telling GOP lawmakers to outwardly support birth control and work on expanding contraception access. That way, when Republicans get questions about their opposition to abortion, they can point to their efforts to prevent the need for abortion in the first place and signal that they are not part of an overly restrictive and religious faction of the GOP. So, what do you think? You think that could work?
I'm gonna surprise you a little bit. I think that if they had put the horse before the cart, so if they had done this in years prior and pushed and joined Democrats to make contraceptive more accessible and easier to access and cheaper to access for Americans, to the point where like even like a lot of lower income people could get access free contraception easily, right? I think if they had pushed that first and gotten that out there first and made and done their part to make contraception easier before they started going hard after abortion, tangibly, not like just the shit they used to say before, but before they actually started doing stuff about it on a state level, I think it would have made the medicine go down a little bit smoother. I do. I really do. Like I think there's a lot of people who are fighting this, who wouldn't maybe quite fight it as hard if you had this other option, because then at least they could point to and to Kellyanne Conway's point, they could point to and say, look, they're giving you options, to avoid having to do this potentially. I think that had you started with that, I think that maybe there's a little bit there, but I think the fact that you're trying to do it after the fact is completely like the horse is already out of the barn, as they say on the Republican abortion issue. Yeah.
I agree with the second part, but I will add. I'll add a little bit to it. I don't actually fully disagree with you as far as if they had done this prior, right? It's actually a clever move, right? the problem here is she gives away the ghost. Quote, and signal that you're not a part of the overly restrictive and religious faction of the GOP. That's the problem, because she recognizes that there is a part of the GOP that is incredibly restrictive and that is incredibly religious. And the problem is that's fucking most of them. Like you're not going to trick hardcore Mormons and hardcore evangelicals into buying into this, because in order for this to have truly worked, it ain't just condoms, baby. Like, yeah, condoms. That's a standard
no.
thing.
I think it's got to be.
You got to go Plan B, and they don't like that shit. So guess what? No fucking way. They see that as a they see it as abortion. So I don't think you can go far enough in this new hip ain't your granddaddy's GOP wave that Kellyanne Conway's trying to slide. You can't go far enough to bring people on the left who are really mad about this. Maybe you could pull a couple of people from the right who are really pissed about this, but I don't think you can bring enough people over because you can't go far enough. The second you go into Plan B and shit like that, I think you immediately start the sirens go off to all of those hyper religious people, and they go, "Fuck that! You're doing the same thing Democrats do." And I don't think that works.
I don't know, man. Like I feel like abortion is just like ultimately, I do feel like abortion is just like any other issue where you have people on the right that are on the far right that think it should be outlawed, full stop, and you have people on the extreme left that think there should be no restrictions at all. And I honestly think that probably most people exist in this spectrum across the middle. And I'm not saying they line up on the belief, but there's people on the right that are probably like, yeah, like, you know, I think it should be accessible up to a point, but maybe that point is like 10 weeks or 12 weeks or 15 weeks. And then you have people on the left that are like, I mean, this should be really liberal and accessible, but at the same time, like if you want to put like a 28-week ban or a 24-week ban in place, like I kind of understand, because at that point, like the fetus can exist outside the womb, and I think there's room to meet in the middle on that stuff, and so I think that even though you're right, like the religious faction of the Republican Party would sit there and still be like, no, like this is bullshit, blah blah blah,
and equally on the left, there would be people who were like, absolutely not. And by the way, I personally don't think they're wrong, right? Like, because I think the problem is this is an actual slippery slope, is that if you allow the GOP to say, oh, it's 28 weeks, then one state will go, it's 25 weeks. It's 10 weeks. Like,
but not if you put a federal, not if you make a federal law.
That's true.
They wouldn't be able to do that. So again, I think that there would have been room, but again, like I think it would be predicated on this fight starting out from a different point. And I think the reason why we are where we are is because the right advocated so heavily handed to let the states decide. And then once you take the fucking reins off, once you take the shot collars off, the states fucking go buck wild and act completely irresponsibly, and that's why the Republicans are where they are right now. Like if states were given that freedom to decide their own bans, and even the most Republican states were like, all right, like we're doing this at 24 weeks. I don't think that. I don't think the cries from around the country would be as loud as they were.
I agree with you. I don't think they would be.
But you had states where like 6 weeks, basically never, like 10 weeks, 8 weeks, all this shit. And that's extreme. That's extreme. And again, that was guided by listening to the most extreme voices in your party. Basically, if we did politics, like congressional politics the way we did in the 80s, we probably would have gotten at a result that was palatable to most people, that still made both sides a little angry for different reasons, but most people could live with it. But because we are now in this very polarized world,
100%,
we will never arrive at such a
And look, like I'm not mad at folks, especially women on the left, who are like, listen, that's my body. I get to make that choice. Fuck off. Right? 100%. I'm in complete agreement with you. But I do think your point, and I know you also agree with that, right? Because I think I hate to say this, but I think we have to add in all of these trapdoors just so it is not taken out of context. We're not saying we agree that a 24.
I'll give you my ultimate position on abortion. I've got a penis. My voice doesn't really fucking matter in this, in this equation, in my honest opinion.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But what we're saying is, from a political standpoint, would it have helped, would it have calmed the sort of the fervor all over the country if it was a 25-week ban or something? Yeah, probably. Because I talked about before, 95% of abortions happen in the first 12 weeks. There's such a rare amount of people who ever make it there. And when they do, it's normally because of some major medical reason where everyone goes, oh, I mean, yeah, what the fuck, man? You're not going to make this woman give birth to a child that's going to die immediately. That's fucking horrendous, right? Now, there are nutball religious people who are like, you got to give birth to that dead baby.
God's will. It's God's will.
Right.
It's God's will.
But what about you? Well, I don't want to see it, right? So, those people are nutcases, and those people you should ignore, and they're not to be taken seriously because they don't live in reality. But the vast majority of people would probably be like, yeah, I don't like it, but that feels reasonable. And it actually could have this is how you know how fucked the country is, because it would have actually kind of killed the debate. It would have kind of killed it.
Oh, it would have. It would have 100%. You would look, 28 weeks, 28 weeks cut off unless the life and safety of the mother is in danger, and that's the exception. But 28 weeks,
right?
Once the fetus reaches viability, you're done.
Right.
Decisions made. You had 7 months. You know what I mean? That's
right. And by the way, full stop. By the way, if the woman's in the life of the mother or the life of the child, is in danger, there's no no state's well, but what about no. Period. If a doctor is no, dude, this is a fucking legitimate thing, no bullshit, we're done here, then we're done. Yeah, I think 95% of this country would just be yeah, again, on either side, be yeah, I don't love it, but I can live with it, right? But again,
that's what bipartisan politics is supposed to be. Both sides are supposed to walk away from the table a little upset. A little upset.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of how it works.
Right.
Tell you you got a good deal, actually, in most cases. When both sides walk away unhappy, that's how you know it's probably a good deal. Because not everybody got exactly what they wanted.
Right. And by the way, keep in mind, there's also the other element here, right? Which is you're talking about a human being's right to their own body, right? So
correct.
That is the reason why the lines are drawn, mentally drawn in such hard ways. Because women are no, fuck off. I'm abdicating that, right? And you have 100% reason to feel that way, which is why I support. That's why I'm pro-choice, because you are literally trying to tell a woman, well, at 28 weeks you get to that's a little hard thing to do. But to our point, politically, most people would have been yeah, I think I can live with it. And the funny thing is, if they had just done that. If Republicans had just done that, they'd be good. But now they decided, like you said, to fucking let the horse out of the barn with the states, and the states they have forever fucked the Republican Party. They literally have.
And now it's going to cost. And it's already, but you could argue it's already cost them one election in 2022. It looks like it might cost them another election this year, and who knows how far in the future if states are allowed to continue. Being on their bullshit, as it were.
Look. The thing that secretly Republicans are hoping for is, God, I hope Democrats win so that they can just do a fucking national, just nationalize this shit and everyone can do it, so they just stop beating us up over it. I honestly, because the worst thing to do is we're just talking politically. The worst thing for Republicans right now is that big matzo ball is just sitting out there, in every election, no matter whatever the economy is doing, whatever, people go, you guys made it so that people can't have abortions, and fuck you. And they're you're right. Oh, could you please?
It's like an enormous fucking piñata that you don't even have to try to fucking aim to hit, and they're just fucking
is it
candy
election
falling all
time?
over the place. Yeah.
Fucking let's go. Bring it back out, guys. Because it's something that people will never forget. Women will never grow tired of throwing it in your face that you're trying to legislate their bodies. They will never grow old on that. They will never like, oh, well, all right, we're moving on to something else. No, yo, it's their bodies. It's theirs their entire time they're alive, and they're pissed. So they have every right to be. So guess what? That's your fault. That's your fault, dude. You shouldn't have done that. But them trying to do that now, it's clever. It's not going to work, but it's clever. So I thought it was an interesting. I thought it was an interesting strategy.
But again, I don't even think that there's a lot of. I don't think there's a lot of fucking motivation on the Republican side to do such a thing anyway. I really don't.
No,
because again, like that would require you to support organizations like Planned Parenthood, who they think is fucking evil, and to let federal dollars support what they consider to be, abortion, essentially, which is a no-go for them. So,
right.
Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.